Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Sellers are losing big money in downtown Vancouver right now. In this week's video, I'm going to talk about what is happening with this condo crisis in downtown and what this means for Vancouver real estate prices moving forward. Real quick, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds interesting to you and you wanted to chat with me one-on-one, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below or on screen, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, guys, we're going to jump right into it. Sellers losing big money in downtown Vancouver. What exactly is going on? To fully wrap our head around, that market in downtown Vancouver, I've talked a few times about development and how it's been quite challenged in many areas, but downtown Vancouver is a special breed. It's a beast in and of itself. And what ultimately has happened over the years with the condos in downtown is the emergence of the luxury tower in downtown really came through in the last 7 to 10 years, and it was very much fueled by a certain segment of buyer that just does not exist in the market anymore, and that would be the foreign buyer. I would say that of all areas in Vancouver, when we're looking at where did the foreign money go for real estate? It went into downtown Vancouver. It went into detached homes in West Vancouver, the west side of Vancouver, and of course Richmond's very synonymous with foreign buyers. It's a place where people actually come and immigrate here, and they feel at home. They feel at home. And so one of these areas that was a big area for foreign buyer investment, foreign money, was downtown Vancouver. And ultimately, we saw a lot of foreign money pouring into this condo market. And so that was 2015, 2016, 2017. Really ramping up. And so developers, of course, thought, this is the future of downtown Vancouver. We're looking at Shanghai, we're looking at New York, we're looking at, Geneva, all these places across the world. And we're modeling to have this bustling downtown where everyone who comes to Canada is really going to want to focus and be centric in that area. So the developers start, building these condos out at $2,500, $3,000 a square foot. You have investors thinking, wow, look at the gains that have happened over the last few years. We need to get a piece of this action. So they're leveling into these pre-sales as well. And I'm not talking about just one unit. I'm talking about multiple $1 million units. So you have investors kind of flocking into this downtown Vancouver market. And all of a sudden, things start to change. We have, the pandemic hit that really changed a lot of things. We had a slowdown already in 2018, 2019. Things were becoming quite questionable at that time. And at the same time, we have this foreign buyer ban. We have all of this, disincentivize or de-incentivizing any sort of foreign investment on the residential side in Vancouver. And so seemingly overnight, but over a period of years, you basically have this this bustling sort of future of being that top downtown, one of the top downtowns in the world, and coming with that some of the highest priced real estate in the world. And now that starts to change. Yet we have pre-sale purchasers that are now waiting. They're waiting for their projects to complete. And so they're sitting in the situation where they've paid their deposits, and the market is now completely changing. So what we have seen in downtown after that, after the pandemic, is people didn't want to be in downtown anymore. People did not want to be in close quarters with other people. So as we saw, most areas around the Lower Mainland really shoot up in price. The one area that did not shoot up in price was downtown Vancouver, because more people were leaving than actually wanting to come in and live there. And of course, with pandemic, people aren't, immigrating into the country. It really shook a lot of things up that were already headed in a certain direction. So now all of a sudden you have these buyers. They bought condos, $2,500 a square foot, $3,000 a square foot, all of these crazy high prices. And now it's coming time to complete on these projects. And so what happens at completion time is you go to the lender, you're getting your mortgage out, and the lender is going to look at your purchase price. They're going to say, okay, well, let us do an appraisal. Let us see what this is worth today, and just confirm, how much we're willing to loan you on the property. And if it's, an 80 to 20 loan to value ratio, for instance, and all of a sudden that property is deemed worth, $200,000, $300,000 less than your contracted price, you're coming up with the difference. And so what we've seen in downtown Vancouver the last couple of years is people not being able to come up with the difference, people walking away from some of these luxury buildings in downtown Vancouver, not able to complete. We've seen developers come in and step in as lenders and as banks to help these buyers complete because they don't really have another choice. The other choice is the buyer walks away, they lose their deposits, and you have to now go resell that property as a developer. That's not a winning formula for a developer to try and sell $3,000 a square foot in downtown Vancouver. So actually better in their best interest to provide this short-term loan, but it puts the strain on the developer. So you have all of these buyers now going to their lenders, the lenders saying it's not worth what you paid, you got to come up with the difference. And ultimately you're seeing units get, again, fire sold, or people are walking away from the deposits. I can cite, one specific example, somebody I know who bought a unit in one of these luxury towers, smaller unit, they paid about, 1.7 for the unit. And, at today's value, today's market, last I saw, they're on the market around $1 million. So when I talk about sellers losing money, I'm not talking about losing 50 grand or 100 grand. We're talking significant sums of money just based on how the scope of downtown Vancouver has changed. And downtown Vancouver, it's a really interesting market for me because, when you're looking at the lower end of the condo market, say 600, 700, 800,000, that stuff is all active again. And you have product now in downtown where you have this well-priced product, and then you have uber luxury. And now all of the pre-sale developments moving forward, the vast majority of them in downtown, the developers are saying, holy smokes, we want no part of this. And so what you're seeing more of a shift towards rental, where they can create a rental asset over a longer period of time, collect their revenue, because the fear of being able to resell these units, it's big. It's seemingly an impossible task. I'm going to jump to a pre-sale in downtown Vancouver that's going to give you a really good scope of what's happening even in the short term. This one I can mention, it's been in the news, the Curve development. And Curve, the developers now are going after a purchaser who purchased 4 units, 2 under themselves, 2 under their company. Total purchase price value, we don't know the exact dollar amount, but somewhere around 38, 39 million, up to potentially 50 million based on the deposits, about $10 million, just under $10 million in deposits that this buyer did not pay. So ultimately they bought 4 units. They paid the initial deposit. This was earlier last year, so early 2024, have not paid a deposit since. And so what often happens in this case, like when you don't pay the deposit, developers sometimes will just take it to completion and see if you're going to complete on the unit. And if you don't complete on it, they're going to sue you for the deposit and obviously any losses that they suffer. But in this case, it's a significant sum of money. We're talking about $50 million in purchase price that could be off the books. So they're going after that purchaser now. But what happened with the purchaser in that period of time to purchase those units and basically just walk away and disappear? And that's downtown Vancouver. This same project, they've gone back to the city to adjust their development permit because they need to make some adjustments to the unit, including removing some, last I checked, removing some balconies from certain units, adding that to interior space, rejigging a little bit to try and make it more of a feasible asset. And so these struggles of the downtown developer, the struggles of the developer in the Lower Mainland, it's just accentuated. It's just accentuated in downtown. And that story I told you of, the 1.7 purchase, it's listed at, $1 million, whatever it might be. This is not an anomaly. This is happening amongst so many of these luxury units. I'm seeing, people walking away from outside of Vancouver, walking away from $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 on some of these new builds. A lot of times they can't complete on these new builds like I talked about. And what the developer does in that sense, sometimes the buyer says, oh, I want to, is there any way I can extend completion? I'm trying to find someone to partner with me. I'm trying to close on this property. What can I do? And the developer says, yeah, you can. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars even, to extend that completion for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And so you have that, here's, pay us $30,000, you can extend for 6 weeks, whatever it might be. And so it's a glut. It's a mess. And the reason why you don't see, this reflected in the numbers, all of these large losses, is when you buy in pre-sale, that price that you bought at pre-sale is not recorded. So if I were to throw up pricing on the channel here, you would see the downtown graph like pretty flat. And you'd say, okay, well, where are these losses happening? It's off of that pre-sale price that is not recorded. So you don't actually see that leveling off. If we had on the MLS what that pre-sale price was, you would see that massive dip and down to where more market value is. So downtown Vancouver, it's one of those areas, I would say, of the city that had the most promise for so many years, that really had a viewpoint that, wow, this is going to be something special. This is going to be world-class downtown Vancouver. And it's hard for me to even comprehend an area or a neighborhood that seemingly changed overnight, but changed so drastically. And what happened with the foreign money that I talked about, it's not like foreign money disappeared from the market when we have a foreign buyer ban. That's not the case. But it got to the point where a lot of the foreign money said, well, we could buy a condo in downtown Vancouver, or, we could buy a brand new detached home on the west side of Vancouver, or even in Vancouver East. And so we saw kind of that changing of priority of the type of product type that people from overseas would want to invest in here. It became less about that condo unit, more about the land. And so as that money shifts into these other areas, they become more prominent. Again, that demand for downtown goes down. People have already bought their units. They're just waiting to complete. And so now we're seeing a bit of a shakedown. Now, in terms of what I see for the future of downtown Vancouver, Vancouver condos in general, spoke many times on my channel how a lot of the development now is moving towards rental, especially on that Vancouver west side, downtown Vancouver as well. So, over the long haul, I still believe that stratified condos on the west side of Vancouver, they're going to carry some significant value if they're not leasehold. And so, over the long haul, I see prices being stable, but there's not going to be some sort of upswing. Downtown Vancouver, even prior, was quite flat. So there's not going to be an upswing in the market. But I think long term, as the inventory shrinks for what you're able to purchase, that your value is going to be protected if you're buying at market rates. But the problem is, the scenarios that I was just talking about, they were never purchased at market rates. They were purchased at where we think the market's going to be in 4 years and 5 years. And unfortunately for a lot of purchasers, that number was just miles off. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, share it with someone who might also learn from it, and consider subscribing to this channel if you enjoy weekly real estate content. And again, if you're in the Vancouver area or the Fraser Valley, you want to chat with me about your real estate situation, you can book me for a call, or you can just give me a call. Send me a text, shoot me an email, whatever works for you. But I'm so glad that you chose to sit with me again this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.